Is it switched on? So, Leslie, you said you're from Market Lavington, hoping to be co-opted onto the parish council, and you're here to listen and learn. That's what we like. Thanks, Leslie. Over to Anne, Anne Howells.
Hi, I'm Anne Howells. I'm from the Royal Wombasset Environment Trust, or ECO RWB for short. Obviously, I live in Wombasset.
Lovely, thank you. Sue, got you there. If you unmute, yes. Thanks. Okay, Sue, I think we might be able to hear you. I can't hear you though. I'm sorry, Sue. Can anyone else hear Sue?
Yeah, no. So Sue's from Swindon. We know each other, so hopefully you get it sorted out soon. We'll be able to hear you.
I'll point out the chat, and Sue, you can always put something about yourself into the chat, and we'll move on. Thanks for being here, Sue. Always good to see someone from Swindon. Mike Roberts.
So, as previously mentioned, I'm from Castle Combe. I'm not affiliated to any other group. I am on the church council in Castle Combe, so I kind of do a lot of driving through the church, both in this village and the wider benefice. I am a chartered surveyor by background. I've done a lot of sustainable development, and I'm also into climate technologies and trying to set up a clean tech fund at the moment.
Sounds brilliant, Mike. And Brian Matthew MP, the special parliamentary interest group he's into is called Climate Tech, I think.
Oh,
So
right. I
you
must
might have,
link back in with Brian on that basis.
great. You might have a lot in common, or he might
Yeah.
benefit from hearing from you. Okay, and then I've got Catherine, Anthony, Shirley, and Luke. Who, Catherine, you're muted. Okay.
Mhm. Hi, yeah, I'm Catherine. I'm sort of affiliated with Sustainable Devices, Cycle Friendly Devices. I'm a parish councillor. I'm doing our neighbourhood plan, and with Wiltshire Cycle Network as well. So lots of things, active travel, really.
Thanks for being here. Anthony, thanks for being here.
Hi, everybody. So Anthony Kirby. Mike Roberts is down the road from me, so we see each other from time to time. Affiliations, the National Emergency Briefing, which you might, we're going to come back to in a second. The Institute and Faculty of Actuaries on their Solvency Working Group. The Diocese of Bristol with the Eco Churches. So a few things to keep me out of trouble, or get me into trouble.
As the case may be. Thanks.
Yeah.
Shirley, hiya.
Hi, I've kind of been bearing with the vicissitudes in Melksham on eco stuff since about 2007, and I'm currently chair of Melksham Environment Group. And we finished our neighbourhood plan, unlike the local plan. So at least we've got something in the kitty. And I was the environment rep on that. So that's it.
Well done, Shirley. You've been great in Melksham, where some of us are a bit thin on the ground. Hello, Luke.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi. We could wait till because you're about to speak. Let's leave that, and let's leave you last but not least. So I'll move to Graham, Jeremy, Richard, and Bill, and then it'll be Hazel and Susie. Graham, hi.
Hi, Graham Martin. I'm from Devices, Sustainable Devices, Town Councillor, doing the neighbourhood plan. I've come particularly because about the NEB briefing, we've got a showing, and I was just going to share a few thoughts about how we're trying to frame that.
Great, good. Thanks for coming along then. Jeremy, hello, and giving Jeremy a slot after the Luke's presentation at the beginning of the updates because he has some good news. Jeremy, where are you from?
Thanks, Andrew. And it's me and Sylvia. We founded Great Green Bedouin a few years ago, and we've just had some lottery funding to spread and share the lessons across the Vale of Pewsey. We're calling the project Green Vale. We'll be talking about it later.
Thank you. And sorry, Sylvia, I did spot you there. Honest. Okay, moving to Richard.
Hi, yeah, I'm Richard down in the bottom left-hand corner of the county, and I work for NADA Community Energy outside of my activism. Okay, so yeah, back to you, Andrew.
Thank you. So Richard is also an activist. Um, Brilliant. Bill, and we all are really.
Hi, good evening. I'm Bill Jarvis, live in Dilton Marsh, part of the steering group, being a member. I was a founder member in 2020, so I've been around a long time with WCA, and we seem to be going in an interesting direction this year. So I'm really pleased with what's going on at the moment. Incredibly busy though, I think, for everybody. Looking forward to tonight's meeting, really.
Yes, thanks. Me too. Hazel.
Hello, I'm Hazel and I'm from Trowbridge, retired teacher some years ago now, and so getting older and older, but I'm always very interested to listen and possibly take part in it, but I'm learning at the same time. And the main thing is that by listening and learning, I can pass on information to, I'm an attender at Quakers, etc., to other friends around me. But that's all I'm doing, but it's very, very interesting. And I do have family on both sides of the world, Japan and, I hate to say it, but San Pedro in West, in America. Don't worry, I won't mention anybody.
Right.
None of us are that part going that way anyway. So
Hazel, it's really brilliant that you're here from Trowbridge, because weirdly we haven't got a large active climate action group in Trowbridge.
Oh dear.
But there may be a chance for us to form one, and let's talk later when the National Emergency Briefing comes up. And so, Susie, I have you there without a picture.
Yes, hello. I'm so sorry. My computer, my camera is broken. I did an update on my MacBook today and it's completely dead. Sorry about that. But hello, nice to meet you all. I'm Susie. I used to join these meetings in COVID, and I've been on the mailing list ever since. And I'm back. Hello. So these days I'm sort of here in a listening, learning capacity as well. I manage a big campaign against an oil field, which hopefully is coming to an end soon, because hopefully we're stopping it. It's the Rosebank oil field that we're trying to stop. So I manage that campaign, and in anticipation of that wrapping up soon, I have to admit I'm scoping out opportunities for big campaigns about community energy, locally owned energy. So I'm just really interested to get an update on what's happening where I live. So I'm in Broughton Gifford, and which is close to Melksham. My son just said the same, sorry. Close to Melksham, Bradford-on-Avon way, and near Trowbridge, Hazel, so I'm near you.
That's lovely, Susie. We can tell from audio alone that you're a lovely person. Good to have with us. My daughter has been involved in Stop Rosebank, and so that's been a lot of energy gone into all that, hasn't it? And you've well positioned in Wiltshire, and you come to the right meeting to some extent to hear about community energy. So stick with us. Thank you. Now, Luke, I've always wanted to do this. Luke was Director of Climate Emergency at Waltham Forest Council. In this role, he launched energy upgrade loans and an in-house retrofit company, but also tested different models for getting solar built locally. Before that, he was Director of Environment and Sustainability at the Behavioural Insights Team, also known as the Nudge Unit, and advised the UK government on net zero strategy and presented at COP26 on behaviour change. Goodness me, you've got credentials, Luke. You're currently establishing Majority Power, a new organisation mobilising local support for clean energy infrastructure. And that's a quote from the forthcoming UK Solar Summit website. And I've always wanted to read out someone's credentials in that way. So I've stolen some of your thunder, Luke. But if you want to give yourself a slightly more personal introduction, fire away. And let's get cracking on that.
Yeah, great, Andrew. Yeah, that does sound very grandiose when you put it back. But I was asked to put something. But I guess, yeah, I mean, a more personal introduction is like the key to this. Can people see the kind of slides? Yeah.
It's
great.
It's not maximized. We got the
that's fine.
list
I'll
down the
maximize
edge.
it now.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so great. I mean, I've got a few slides, I think 5, but I won't bombard you. But yeah, maybe a more personal introduction would be the origin of this, which was that I was working at a council, and when you work at a council, and I think a lot of people have experience here, sounds like directly or indirectly, most people on the call, one of the things you quickly realize is just how powerful local voices can be, and often that is a good thing. Sometimes it's a challenging thing when perhaps those people don't necessarily represent broader views. And I think that's what I found when looking at renewable projects. A lot of people sort of speak up, but they're often just a very small share of people. And then people who support these projects almost never speak up. In fact, I went to a lot of planning committee meetings. Maybe people have seen it. I almost never saw anyone speak out positively for projects that they support. And that's despite the fact that, the majority of people do support these projects. And so I started wondering what it would take to kind of push the other side. So that's the idea of this initiative. It's kind of philanthropically funded. We've piloted it a few times. I'll talk through it, but really just jump in anytime with questions. So yeah, the idea was kind of, what would it take to mobilize the majority of green energy supporters? Very familiar challenges. We need a lot of new clean energy. And, if you believe voting intentions, it's not exactly great time for widespread climate support, which is kind of the consensus is clearly rupturing. But the second challenge is local support really kind of makes or breaks these projects. And in my experience, great to get a challenge on this, the opposition really dominates the process in terms of public support. These are the kind of rooms where, the planning committees take place. This was one particular one in Northamptonshire where it was supported by the council, supported by the majority of people. And right in that room, it was a very close call. And you could see the effect of the people in the public support, as you sort of should be, affecting the decision right there, live in the room. And public support really matters on this. Like almost a quarter of these applications, large scale solar applications, are rejected, which is about a third of our total capacity that's been rejected. And what we see is like public support significantly affects that. If you look across, all the solar farms that have been created, whether there was some public support or not matters. And that's what that's what councillors say as well. Like public opposition is one of the biggest barriers. But there is this huge opportunity, and this will be familiar to most of you, that most people do support this stuff. Like, despite the fact that we don't see this in people standing up, we don't see this in the public planning process, we don't see a lot of engagement from supporters. It is true that most people support these things. And this is a question Clyde Barometer asked. They asked, do you like solar farms? And most people say yes, but then they ask people like, do you like these if they were to be built in your local area? It's still hypothetical. It depends on the type of project. But when you ask people, like, a lot of people do support these, the majority of people do. But when you flip this question around and you say to politicians in your area, the same question, like, what share of people do you think support this? The real answer is about 3/4. And the answer they give is the opposite, like about a quarter. So the MP's perception of constituents' fingers is about 20%. So they believe that nobody, and this is obviously average, there'll be more or less informed MPs and local politicians, but the belief is that most people don't like these things. And the reason is obvious, because that is the people they hear from. So we started this approach. We've piloted, there's 6 pilot sites. They're all solar farms across the country. 4 of them are with Greenpeace. And this is basically the approach we take. We try and find, starting from the top left targeting, we try and find some of these local clean energy projects. We're scraping and looking for council websites when these large sites come on board. Then we do our own due diligence on the site to check about the proposal. We've got a number of checks we apply. We can't do it perfectly, but looking at whether this proposal does seem to be a good thing. And then we reach out. So in the Greenpeace example, reaching out to all supporters in Wiltshire to say, this project is nearby, this is what we think of it. Like, if you are interested in supporting it, start the engagement process. And the 3 ways we ask people to do it is to kind of, I guess, stand up at the bottom, just register your support, and then speak up contacting local decision makers, emailing the council, engaging with the consultation process, and then finally showing up to the meetings and even possibly supporting. So that's where we're up. And I met Julian at a Climate Coalition meeting, and one of our particular sites is this one, which some of you may be familiar with, near Wootton Bassett. It's about a 50 megawatt site. So yeah, enough to power 20,000 homes. It's on about 10 to 15% of it is grade 3B. So it's on mostly lower quality farmland. Some of it is higher quality though. That in my view, they've done a pretty good job trying to screen this, given the residential access with the planting, and they do have a community benefit applied. I know the question before about this is not community ownership. There is no stake in this. There's no joint venture, but there are some pots that will be accrued. There are some challenges, and I'm very happy to be very honest about the site. There is a kind of current ongoing discussion with Natural England about the Flaxlands Manor area that they're trying to resolve. But yeah, I think it's a good proposal, and these things are never necessarily perfect, but it's a good site for it. And yeah, so I spoke to Julian, and he said, well, you should come along here because we have some supporters. This is a pilot we've done with Greenpeace, but there would always be possibility of more, and it's never too late. This site is probably going to go to the committee soon, speaking to the developer Ampere most likely in April. But if there's people, on this call that have questions, or people on this call that think they may be willing to support it or share it, we have a very simple way of sharing this round to people, see if they're interested and engage with it. But yeah, that's the kind of general approach. There's a particular site in Wiltshire now, but I'd love to get kind of, discussion, challenge on any of this, and then obviously whether this would be an interest for people here and their groups.
Thank you. Let's have questions and comments for Luke then. Hands up, physical or Zoomy hands up. Mike, you've got a question.
Thanks, Luke. That's really interesting. What I'm kind of in the area with a massive solar scheme, which is being objected to hugely all around Shurston and thereabouts. And I just, every corner you turn, there's an poster saying, stop this scheme and stop destroying our countryside and all this kind of stuff. And it just strikes me, I don't know whether it's going to get through eventually or not, but it's just such a waste, not meaning to make a pun, but it's a waste of energy from everybody concerned. There's a vast amount of resource going in to try and get planning, and a vast amount of resource going in to try and stop planning. Meanwhile, we're building no renewable energy. So how do we join that kind of commercial world with the community world so that we're actually stopping all this wasted energy? I mean, I say to the anti-campaigners, come up with your own scheme, come up with something positive rather than just saying no, no, no. So that's my question.
Yeah, and I guess it can be incredibly frustrating, but I mean, like, it is totally within everyone's rights, particularly people who live locally, to put their opposition across, and I would never kind of begrudge that. I think for me, and why I'm excited about this kind of initiative, is that it is probably the problem is that it's not balanced, it's not shared on either side. And I know that when I was working at council, a lot of times the councillors, they wanted to make what they saw as the right decision. They wanted to make the decision that was recommended to them by their officers. And what they needed from the public was just cover for that. They needed to see that it was a balanced view with different people on different sides. And, maybe there's some points, but they had the cover to go forth and put that through. And I think if you only hear from one group continuously, you start to go into those stats, you start to get this outside view that everyone thinks that. So I guess it can seem, wasted effort when there's so much energy going on each side. But I don't think it necessarily has to be like a lot of these larger schemes. They don't have so many people engaging. It's just that the only people are on one side. I'm going to guess you're talking about maybe a much more sensitive scheme. I think that's on like the public attitudes. And then the other part, which I'm sure we'll get to, is this, despite the fact that all 6 of our pilots are, proposing to support these schemes, making these schemes better and making these schemes more beneficial locally would really help as well. So we do have some schemes that are in the pipeline that have direct kind of community ownership, a kind of joint venture with 10% locally. But that will always be continually will be a smaller share. And I think what I would like to see is somewhere in between local people having a stake in the ownership and what currently exists, which is there may be some benefits down the road, but they're very badly specified up front. So typically the setup, which you might know, is that there will be a pot, but it's not part of the planning process. So we will determine this after the scheme. The amount is unclear, who determines it unclear. And that's really frustrating, I think, for people. Okay. So I think, balancing the support, I think, is what we're on to now. And then the second thing is, I think we need something which is a clearer upfront stake, what the local people are going to get. You get that with certain things, but it's very rarely determined until down the line, which is super frustrating.
Thank you, Luke. You've covered a lot of ground in that one answer alone.
Sorry.
Great. Time's ticking on, and this shouldn't be our last chance. We can definitely organise a separate meeting on this topic alone, organising around solar and so on. So this won't be people's last chance. So let's get people to fire over the questions. I've got half a dozen people with hands up, and quick questions and relatively quick answers so that we can cover the ground and move on, because this is a really interesting topic. Thanks. So Bill.
Yeah, hi Luke. How are you managing local interfaces? Are you actually out on the road? Are you managing this remotely? How are you engaging with the public to get public interest up and public interest positive? Because one of the things we find difficult is actually getting that point over. Getting public interest positive is a challenge, and then people, whoever it might be, go out there and find they're being battered by the nose and find it quite difficult to bat back. And then you lose that. You get the exact position you described, where you get a lot of opposition and very few people positive, only because there's no real support behind the positive, if you like, in reality, in the area.
So we take a totally different approach to avoid that local backlash. All of our engagement is digital. So it's a mass outreach to all Greenpeace supporters, and then they engage digitally to show their support to the council. And then only for that final stage where we try and get people to turn up are we meeting in person and going along.
Okay. So there's no discussion in the process with the nose.
There's no discussion. It's sort of from a hypothesis that it's very hard to persuade the nose. So maybe the best thing to do is find all of these latent yeses and go get a bunch of them to say we support it. That's the hypothesis we're running on.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Shall I go?
Yeah, go on.
Next, please. Sorry, Bill. Sorry, Jeremy.
I've got a slightly different perspective. I'm actually a trustee of Wiltshire Wildlife Community Energy, which, as part of Wiltshire Wildlife Trust, set up 2 not very big solar farms, and we've just finished another one on a rooftop of a school with quite struggle. We have a windfall pot because we weren't expecting quite such an effect of the last oil crisis, but we know exactly where the proceeds are going, because they're going to fund green projects that have both emissions reduction and wildlife benefits. The interesting thing is these 2 projects are actually in wildlife reserves. Now, that's quite an interesting model to use because it's quite transparent, and I'm happy to put people in touch so you can look at the websites. It's wwce.org.uk, but it's just a parallel. It's not people owned, but it is effectively community owned.
Comment? Anything, Luke?
No, I mean, I'm very happy to check that out. I mean,
Excellent. I'm just putting in the chat the link to the Flaxlands Farm solar farm planning application, and that's where you would need to go in order to make a comment. And I've had a look at the comments earlier today, and there are this pleasing number of comments in favour of the development on grounds that we need renewable energy, and also quite a number of comments objecting to the proposal. So that might be useful to you. Let's move on to Richard.
Yeah, look, I was just going to ask whether the future energy landscapes process, where do you see that fitting with this? Because I think that's kind of more people getting together in a community, as I understand it. I may have got this completely wrong, but people getting together in a community to try and work out together where might be a good place to put renewable energy for the benefit of said community. Do you see a place for that?
Yep, absolutely. And yes, absolutely for shared ownership. The thing I always say is that, like, given the speed and sort of urgency of this, a very large part of this is going to be large scale solar farms, large scale onshore wind. So, like, I am supportive of all these things, and there has to be a better way. And the longer you work on this, there has to be better, but there also needs to be like a way to make the rump of it better. And that's what I'm attacking. So yes, it would be great if it was a more determined process, but we also need to take these chunk of projects and make them better. So.
And the next, Anne, let's move on. I'm putting a link to future energy landscapes in the chat. Sorry, Anne, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. I'm from Bassett, obviously, so very close to this. A few questions, I'm afraid. Do you know if the soil underneath improves or deteriorates, and does biodiversity increase or reduce with solar panels? Because that'd be quite good information to kind of get out there as to if that is positive. The other question is, I apologise if you have, but I haven't seen anything on our Facebook group. Like, we've got our environment, EcoRWB has about 1,500 people on our Facebook group in Bassett, and I haven't seen any kind of information on there. And we do have very good experiences of putting stuff out which might be unpopular if people didn't know what's going on, whereas when they do know what's going on and why it's going on, then they don't kick up a fuss, if that makes sense. So, like I say, apologies if I've missed it.
No, you haven't.
But I haven't seen any information on there, which would be your target market for getting people on board. Obviously, we do have a meeting coming up in March, so if there's any good things I can put out for that would be useful to know. So I think that's be one of my comments, is the benefits aren't very clear and they need to be clearer, and now would be the really good time to be clear. And also things like if there is a local benefit pot for the community, those sorts of things, knowing up front is the thing which sort of gets people on board. So
yeah, I mean, if you care about just soil, it's almost always going to improve because it sits there and regenerates naturally rather than what is typically a single crop farming. If you talk about food, you are obviously reducing the chance to do it by having the solar farms. Yeah, so for the soil gets better, and they are obliged to, all projects now, to improve the biodiversity in some aspects across the site as they do it. So I think the soil is very positive story. We haven't put anything on the Facebook. You haven't missed anything, and it's just that I think discussion must come to this meeting and just discuss it first before seeing what the appetite was. And if so, I can put something very small informational saying this is where this site is at, assessment of the kind of benefits, and if you want to engage, this is how you do it.
Good, thanks. So thanks, Anne. Do you want to lower your hand? We've got Shirley.
If I may just make 3 small points that I'd love Luke's comment on, please. I think there would be greater support broadly for renewables if somebody, and it could be WCA, it could be the Wiltshire Community Energy Network, came up with a cumulative impact bar to further solar. I think that in Broughton Gifford, we have 4 solar farms or battery in storage, or possibly 5 within a mile of the common. And Melksham has about 7 or 8. And although at the last meeting of the Wiltshire Community Energy Network that the Wiltshire Council convenes did say that, you know, somebody needs to do some work on this sort of thing, who is? Nobody. Planning certainly aren't. And especially not when some of the impact is through national infrastructure. So Wiltshire Council doesn't have skin in the game much. So I think it would be a great favour to everybody if somebody came up with some guidance on cumulative impact and when enough is enough. Number 2, I'm finding that the Future Energy Landscapes project is only addressing solar and wind. So I've had no help whatsoever for Melksham's efforts to get micro hydropower in Melksham on the Avon. So they just went by us saying we didn't know there was a Melksham Environment Group, even though I'd been to the previous meeting and I'd introduced myself to Vicky Burville, etc., etc. Anyway, how to feel you don't exist. So Mona Lott here from Broughton Gifford is saying that there are a few downsides that I think would help overall if we help overall if we solve those downsides. Okay. So I know there's a Community Energy State of the Sector 2025 report that could be useful. I haven't read it yet. And how do the local power plans deal with all this stuff? So those are about 5 questions to Luke. Sorry.
No worries. Cumulative impact, yeah, is kind of a huge point, and the developers themselves know that, you know, the planning process does account for this to a degree, that you have to put in the planning applications that are relevant nearby. The problem is that the thing that trumps that is typically access to grid connections. So they are often in similar places. So yeah, I don't have a good answer. I guess like what we're trying to do is just put it out to people and say, you know, you are someone, are you interested in this? Are you willing to support? And, you know, it's kind of for them to decide. And even the Greenpeace supporters we're sending this out to, if they start to feel like there's just way too many of these sites in this place, then they are also not going to be supportive. So I don't have a good answer. I don't know if someone has done that. It does come up on the planning committees, and the councillors do start to consider that. But yes, and then yeah, I think the Future Energy Landscape, I'm only looking at it through the solar lens as well. The only things we've done is solar and onshore wind with this approach. So that's certainly where we're looking as well. And I think with the local power plan as well, it's a similar setup where that could lead to kind of more agency and more kind of determination locally to direct it. But I just worry how long this will take to make it work.
Great, thanks. Fair points, Shirley. Well taken, Luke. So, and just on hydropower, there are hydropower groups and organisations dotted around the country. There's a South Somerset Hydropower. Tellisford, just across the Wiltshire border in near Frome, has a notice board, and they mentioned that they're a member of such and such a hydropower association. So it's probably best to contact through that network to get support on more hydropower in Wiltshire, and good luck with that. So we've got Susie, and then one more. I'll allow Bill one more, if maybe. Susie, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Luke, I love this. It's really cool. What a great idea. It's just a bit of a question about how it works. So you said that it's all digital engagement. How far, like radius wise, do you go around the local site asking people to input? So do you have to be local to get involved in it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the way we've worked is, take the Greenpeace example, they have a huge bank of supporters. we would go out to anyone that's in that planning authority. Now, that's quite unusual for Wiltshire because it's so big. So for some of the other pilots, anyone in that planning authority as a Greenpeace supporter will be very close and feel very relevant for this. Wiltshire's quite interesting because you know, as you all know better than me, you could be quite far from this. But what we do is we go out to all the supporters in that area, and then we have noticed, based on the people that have come back, that people sort of self-select somewhat, depending on whether they're close to it. But no, we do that. We do digital engagement. We get people, we make the first thing like super simple to do. And then we bring people together later in a kind of Zoom call. And that's where we found out where everyone's from and their interest in it.
My orders. Yes, thank you. Over to Bill. If you finish, Susie, yes, okay.
Yeah, I think the outcome of this for me is that there was a lot of, I think 3 years ago, we put out a paper, WCA paper on solar and one on wind, which is still sitting on our website, but we've not actually had an energy group meeting talking about this for a year at least. I think there's enough questions coming out of this tonight for us to say we need a session on solar to answer some of the questions that have been put forward for local use and try and give a bit more meat for people to use as answers to that. It already exists in our solar paper, but it needs to be updated and it needs to address the things that would help, like Anne was talking about, biodiversity increase, etc. There are facts that show that. And Luke, you can grow crops underneath solar panels. You just don't, you have to build them slightly differently, don't you? So it's not, so we can give positive answers for a lot of these things. I think the thing to do is have a session, work out what the questions are, and if we haven't got the answers, find them. And I just, yeah, I think it's important we do that now because we're not going to stop wanting to have solar farms in Wiltshire, even though we've apparently got more than anybody else in the country, but I don't believe that for 1 minute. Anyway, I'm just suggesting that as an outcome. And if people want to have that sort of meeting, either stick your hands up now or put your note in the
yes. Wave a hand if you'd be interested in having an energy group meeting. That's a lot of hands. Great.
Okay.
And,
I'll do that. I'll sort that out.
And if anyone who wants to be involved in setting that up, so that you'd have some influence over the agenda, then put your name in the chat or contact us otherwise.
Yes, please.
And Bill's definitely saying yes, please, because he's always doing too much. So that would be wonderful. And I think we've done a fantastic whirlwind tour of the issues and the opportunities and the need to be organised. To show
Sorry,
support.
Andrew, I know
yeah,
you're going to be can I ask one thing, which is just like, for the people that might be interested, I have like a very short thing I can share, which just has a link if people want to, add their support, engage, be further interested. Like, is that something I can just share around with you?
There should be a way to do that.
Or...
Is there anything you can put in the chat, or?
Yeah, I can actually just put it in the chat. Maybe that's the easiest way.
Yeah, and can you, if you put something you want to comment on, we'll put it throughout to the members.
Okay.
And we always love to clutch hold of a security blanket, which is a copy of your presentation, so that we can think about it at leisure. So if you can send that in.
And I can add the link to that as well.
We can link to that on the webpage for this meeting. And this meeting video will, unless anything appalling happens, go onto our YouTube channel in a few days. And so the people have a chance to look at that. And on that page, we can also put some relevant links. So yeah, good. Thanks. And Anthony's already saying, yes, Shirley. Oh, we love it. Yes, love to be interested in helping. And for me, I'd be interested in seeing geothermal one day in Wiltshire. There are two corners. One's near Bath, where the hot springs are, and the other's towards the Southamptonish corner of Wiltshire. But that probably is lower down the priority list. Anyway, we've wonderfully only run less than a quarter of an hour late. And that's for very good reasons. So I'm going to I did put the some agenda for the next section in the chat further up. And our late extra item, I'm very pleased to say, is Jeremy and Sylvia want to talk to us about Pusey's Green Vale project, and I'm very excited because you've managed to draw down some lottery money. So, Jeremy, are you able to give us your 3 or 4 slide, or Jeremy and Sylvia, sorry, presentation?
Yep, here we go. Hope you can hear us. I'll just maximize that lot and try to.
Can you see it all right? Are we on mute?
Yep.
Everyone can see it.
And you can even hear us. Great. Okay, so we're calling this new project Green Vale, and it's about sharing good ideas about responding to climate change. Yeah, it's not so much preventing it, it's about responding to it. And that's our new email address, greenvalewilts@outlook.com. So the aims are to work with the Pusey Community Area Partnership. So this is a 27 parish area across the Vale of Pusey, which is a pre-existing, it actually is a fallout of the Unitary Authority. They agreed that there would be community area partnerships. I think Pusey is one of the few remaining community area partnerships. It remains very active. So it's about aiming to build climate resilience and supporting nature recovery by engaging residents, community champions, voluntary organisations, etc., building their capacity to tackle the results of climate change together and sharing knowledge and lessons learned in copying successful projects. It's what Kate Sylvester calls R&D, rob and duplicate. And the scope is the Vale of Pusey and neighbouring communities. We're not going to exclude people because they lie beyond the pink line. So the focus areas, it's a wide span, but we did some work with the building on the learning from Great Green Bedwin and Pusey Green, and also we did an online survey with 70 responses. We had 2 open meetings in the autumn across Pusey Vale, and the 3 themes that resulted were flooding and water quality, home energy costs, and nature recovery and regenerative farming. We've been very lucky to recruit Paul Cobbings as a voluntary leader for the theme flooding and water quality, and Kate is leading home energy costs with my support. We're still recruiting a theme leader for nature recovery and regenerative farming. If anybody's got any ideas, please let us know. What we will do is basically to inform, motivate, and prompt action and share good and bad ideas. I don't think there's time to go into the detail, but essentially it's about facilitation, it's about hub and spoke, it's about sharing, it's about putting people in contact with local experts, local groups, and making the lessons of projects shared, good projects and also projects that have failed. We've all got some of those. And obviously we do the regular things at e-newsletters at a website, site visits. We will be appointing a part-time project coordinator, quite limited funds for that, and an external advisory group. So what's next? We're given a launch meeting in Burbage Village Hall on the April 21st. Everybody is welcome to that. You don't need to let us know ahead of time. There's plenty of space. Look forward to seeing you there. We're also recruiting the Nature Recovery Theme Lead, an external advisory group, and local community champions. We've got a good mailing list of local volunteers. We'll be recruiting that part-time coordinator. It's actually a self-employed kind of service role, so we're not employing them, but they will provide a single point of contact, help develop our website, mailing list, social media, and all the usual things. It's a total of about 80 days across the 2 years. We've already got a URL, but we're developing content now for our website. Please do let us know if you're interested, if you can help in any way, you want to partner with us, or you've got any questions or comments. So thanks very much for allowing us time there. And I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed. Did you mention how much money you got from National Lottery?
Not a lot.
It's double what we had for Great Green Bedwin. That was just 1 year. It's one of the small grants, so it's under 20k.
Okay. Wow. That's not insignificant anyway, is it? Let
It's
me just
great.
be a tiny bit of a devil's advocate. The themes, flooding and water quality, is the first, which
Yeah.
looks to me like climate adaptation.
Yes, it is.
And from what I've been reading around climate, extreme weather impacts and so on, in Britain, extreme heat is likely to be the most serious cause of loss of life and so on, damage to livestock, crops and so on, heat, droughts and so on. not that I'm belittling flooding, but I'm just making a comment. And then the next one you've said is home energy costs, which
Yeah.
with a fair wind, people can save energy, although they sometimes consume greater home energy efficiency in the form of more comfortable homes with the same energy bills. So I'm very keen on getting people to decarbonize their home by taking out gas, putting in solar under battery,
Oh, yes.
heat pumps, and so on, by which you definitely do decarbonize.
Yeah.
And you might also have a more comfortable, cheaper, more healthy home as well. So thumbs up, double thumbs up to that, Jeremy. And,
Great.
And the third one, nature recovery and regenerative things to do with the land. That's
Farming,
the one
yeah.
that I personally find is more indirectly linked to climate change. Um, in the worst case, regenerative agriculture can actually add to greenhouse gases or not draw down significantly as much as it adds. And but in other situations, you might do better than that. Are you seeing that one as a bit of adaptation to the
Yes, Sylvia.
Well, we've been working in Great Green Bedouin with the local farmers group, and they've actually astonished us with how much they're doing already in terms of cover crops, not keeping cattle out on the hillside 24/7, 365 days a year, and all sorts of things like that. And one farmer particularly is interested in dung beetles as the indicator of soil health. So they're a passionate lot, and we're hoping the Pewsey Downs farmers cluster will all equally support this strongly. But we'll see.
And there's a link with runoff and water quality there, for example, directly. So we're a very rural part of Wiltshire. I mean, I think we're all rural, but it feels like it's important to get and keep the farmers on side. And it'd be strange to talk about nature recovery without talking about farming. We're also interested in what people can do with their own gardens and the idea of virtual nature reserves, that we should encourage people to set aside X square meters in their garden, and we can log that, put it on a website, and we'll have a virtual nature reserve, and people can share their tips and tricks and successes and failures.
That sounds brilliant. And of course, if you can steer for farmers, and especially in Vale Pewsey, that's so important to the local economy, towards the farm carbon toolkit. But even that, I have reservations about the quality of the science behind some of their things, and I'd love to talk to you again about that. But let's not dwell on that now. Thanks. You've answered my questions well, Julian.
Yeah, the Vale is quite a hotbed of organic horticulture, I think, isn't it? Are you able to support that in the project? I think that would be one of the most valuable things you can do, really, and extol the virtues of that and get it more widespread, and get a sort of shift more from the livestock farming to more of that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic, but we didn't think it was realistic to just focus on organic. And in fact, one big organic farm locally, unfortunately, has been bought up by one of the agribusinesses who are exploiting the fantastic soil quality, but they're not organic anymore.
But their assets dripping the soil.
Yeah, you could say.
Interesting, Bill.
Yeah, a quick one. Have you engaged with the council?
Yeah. Well,
was it positive?
But we have a very good contact in Caroline LeCurn, who's a community engagement officer, and she keeps us abreast of what's going on. So, and she's been to a lot of PCAP meetings, for instance. So yes,
she's very supportive. She cloned our survey across a broad strip of Wiltshire, going away to far west. So yes,
that's good
she's
news.
very helpful.
Good news. Okay.
Well, thanks for all the positive comments and feedback.
And
That's
thanks for letting
really
us
great.
do this.
And you're the first to hear about this. We only got the news about 10 days ago, and it started officially on the 1st of March. So
brilliant. Pleased to fit you in. Thanks so much, Jeremy and Sylvia. All right, so we're in the updates phase, but before we go on, Wiltshire Climate Alliance hasn't had an AGM for several years. So we want to have an AGM. It was going to be this one. The steering groups, everybody's doing so much, we didn't get it together. And then we wanted to be before our April meeting. I know this is under AOB next meeting officially, but I'm doing it now in case anyone goes off and goes to sleep. We want our next meeting to include a short but sweet AGM. And so we will be emailing you at least 2 weeks, I hope, before that date. Otherwise, we'll have to postpone it again. And that's something we want to do just to sort of regularize our governance, let you chuck us all out. I'd really be pleased if you threw the whole steering group out and others of you became the steering group. I'm sure that will happen, not. So that's your heads up, your first warning. Your first notice. And with that, I'll see if we can move on to the next thing on our agenda, which is going to be, and this one's quite significant, and perhaps the most significant of this little series of updates, National Emergency Briefing, the film. Who can speak to that, please?
Shall I start it off and just
Yeah,
pass
so
over to
Graham's
one or
raised
two
the
people?
finger.
Yeah. So there's been lots of great things happening. It's really taking off, I think, the interest in this film. And there's, as I put in the minutes, in the agenda, there's quite a few local screenings planned. Julie, who wasn't able to be here tonight, is involved in the Climate Emergency Centre National Emergency Briefing Support WhatsApp chat. And they're doing a lot of work to try and sort of pull together what's happening and support people to do it, as well as the organisation themselves, which you can go directly to on the website, which is in the agenda again, where you can see how to screen the film. And also Zero Hour have been active in supporting it. They're the organisation who support the Climate and Nature Bill, but they believe it's really sort of really important to supporting their sort of cause as well. All the information is there to support people that want to have a screening. So I'm probably gabbling on this a little bit. So we've got the main briefings are all online on YouTube, as we've covered several times before, and there's a link to that in the agenda. So those are really for sharing with decision makers, such as MPs and councillors, encouraging them to have a look in advance. You can do that now. It takes building a relationship with them, explaining what it is, encouraging them to have a look. And that's a really important thing to do. But there's also the National Emergency Briefing people who organise the event are doing a film, which is due to be released on the 7th of April. And that is more for engaging with the public. So what they're encouraging people to do is organise public screenings, and there are sort of two types of those really. There's smaller community ones to engage communities, and that'll be the sort of people who are already interested, but also ones where you invite your MP and other sort of community leaders and people, try and get a slightly bigger event to impress upon the MPs the importance of doing it, ask questions. It's not going to be, well, yeah, if you had elections, it would be Hastings, but there's not elections in Wiltshire apart from Swindon, so it would be more likely to be after the election when the MPs have a bit more time. So that's the other sort of screening that people are encouraged to organise. So, Jackie, you've probably got a bit more detail on that, haven't you? And Anthony as well, I'm sure.
I just wanted to say, I know all of you know Jen Gale. She spoke at the summit. She's given us a lot of us carbon literacy training. Now she has restarted her podcasts, which you can follow from her website. And she did a wonderful interview with one of the organisers of the NEB. And as an example of two brothers holding hands and jumping off a cliff with a big idea, that, you know, I feel so much for them, because I think after the event, which was amazing, everyone's going, oh, but have you thought of this? And have you done that? And I think probably they just wanted to go into a hole and go, it's over to you guys now. And they've worked really hard to put this film together with celebrities and Vox Pop, and so I'm very much taking a lot of advice on board for how to communicate this and also provide support materials. But it really is over to us to now have screenings all over the country to back it up. No, but it, you know, if you want to find out why they did it and how they did it, it, you know, it is really well worth listening to Jen, and she's done lots of other really good podcasts as well. But thank you, Julian, for putting the link up. I think, and Julie, as Julian was saying, Julie Strawson, who's been amazing promoter as part of WCA, doing Facebook and promoting a lot of our events. She's now helping. She's now the Southwest coordinator with the Climate Emergency Centre group, which are managing a lot of the promotions. And it would really help us if you are thinking of having an event, if you could at this stage just email contact at Wiltshire Climate Alliance with your events details. We know of some of them, bless you, like Graham's event and so on. But if we can have just, you know, we're hoping to hold something in Pewsey, we're hoping to hold something in Bedwyn, Nada, whatever, with current dates, and these are our thoughts, then at least we can start getting a feeling for what's happening in Wiltshire. And I would now like to hand on to Anthony, who
yeah,
people really causing the trouble at the beginning, I think.
I gotta say, I'm the guilty.
I'm very grateful for you to inviting WCA to come.
No, just a couple of little things. So the big event, I mean, for those who attended, and obviously Jackie and Julian, you were there with me. Yeah, 1,250 people. We had a number of MPs and senior members from the House of Commons and House of Lords there, obviously, and government departments. The purpose of the film, which, as Julian said, is coming out on April the 7th. It's a 45-minute work of art. It's going to involve people like Chris Packham from the BBC, Mike Berners-Lee, and others. The purpose of the film really is as follows. We had 1,250 folks at the meeting on November the 27th, and Jackie, it's fair to say they got it. You know, we are already the converted. The problem is the folks are not in the room. The folks who didn't make it on the day, but more importantly, the folks who remain to be convinced. And if I can prevail on any of the screening groups to try and see how we could simplify the language, get rid of all of the jargon and the sort of thing that puts people off, I think that would really help. This is going to be a very high impact film. I've assisted in trying to get Chris to interview certain people, and it should be very, very, it should run and run. And it's already, as Jackie has seen, there's repeat talks, which some of the folks who attended the meeting on the 27th have given. One of the more fascinating ones is, particularly given the current wartime situation right now, is Lieutenant General Richard Nugee, talking about the security implications of building large solar farms or whichever. So I think there's going to be something in it for everybody. And I think the key message really is let's try and get it out there, make it viral, try and convert more of the skeptics into at least trying to see climate change and biodiversity protection as a day-to-day activity and not something that is a special interest. So if we can do that, that would be good. Andrew, do you have any thoughts from the WCA perspective overall? Because I came to you with the idea of how we screen it as a group.
I think we're trying to bubble up some ideas, and I got confused because someone asked if we wanted WCA to be a distributor. I'm not sure if that's the same as being a connection or a connector, but all will be no doubt well in the wash. For instance, Climate Friendly Bradford and Avon wants to do a screening. I think we ought to be coordinating and telling each other about our screenings, so that we can help each other promote them. And today I looked at Trowbridge, where there are 3 or 4 possible venues. County Hall, very iffy according to Wiltshire Council's climate team, but I think it might be possible that Paul Sample, the cabinet member, might want to hold a screening in the council chamber for councillors and council officers after working hours, and probably not have WCA's name associated with that. I've got some quotes for a screening at the Old Town Hall, recently renovated and reopened in Trowbridge. There's a big venue called the Trowbridge Civic, which is run by the town council, and I've been tipped off that a school called St Augustine's has a big auditorium and lots of excellent audio-visual equipment. We also have a steering group member, Christian Lang, who runs what do you call it? All the kit, it's called, equipment for events, festivals, and so on. And he almost certainly will have a digital projector and a mobile screen and so on, that we might be able to collaborate. It would be wonderful if a screening, I agree with you very much that it's the people who aren't in the room, the people from the rest of civil society, plus the councillors, perhaps police reps, chairs of committees, and U3A and young people and so on. If we can get them into screenings one way or another, I'm bracing myself to make lots of cakes already. And it would be wonderful if one of the outcomes was that Trowbridge suddenly has a strong climate action group emerging from the occasion of the screening. But anyone else?
Sorry, can I? Oh, sorry, Jackie.
Yeah, I was just going to come in and say, in addition to Julie being the Southwest coordinator, she's also working with quite a few of us as a WCA NEB group that's already been set up. So again, please let us know what you're doing. And I was also going to say I'd love to introduce Graham, who's well ahead of us in devices and has already got an event well underway. So I would suggest we hear what he's been up to too.
Yes, let's go over to Graham. And Kate, you've got a hand up too.
Yeah, hi. First thing for your diaries, 30th of April in the evening. It's confirmed. Brian Matthews, our MP, will be there, as will Richard Nugent, who's agreed to come along. One of the things we've been struggling with, and Jackie's been part of this, and you'll get dragged in again, Jackie, is exactly how we want to frame this. While we support the overall aim, which is to get a national televised debate, actually our framing is going to be about community resilience. And last night I persuaded the town council to formally partner this and encourage as many town councillors to come along as possible, but their logo will be on this. And over the next week or so, when we start seeing the material, we're going to work out who we target. I think we're going to target decision makers in the town.
Your sound is fading in and out. I don't know if there's anything you can do about it.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. So we're going to target decision makers particularly because I have wanted for some time to get the council and other people in the community to start looking at what we need to do in terms of community resilience and what that means in the face of not just impacts of climate change, but somebody referred to it earlier, the war ongoing at the moment. And there are going to be unforeseen consequences of that. So it's very much going to be framed around that, and that's the way we're going to try and encourage people to come in. That's probably enough for the moment.
Really good. Thanks.
On that topic, maybe Julian would be kind enough to put it in the chat. There is a meeting tomorrow lunchtime put on by Henley Green in Oxfordshire, just on this subject. How do we, I think they're taking more the resilience approach, and they're doing that as a webinar for people to watch and discuss that as part of the NEB, how they're planning their NEB showings. So I can highly recommend that.
Thank you. Kate, it's a hand up, unmute. Yeah. Thanks.
Hi, folks. I have to say that I get the Dave Wallace's Faction ahead of the game vlog And this week he has stressed the new actuaries report that came out for 225. And it's absolutely terrifying. I put the link into the chat. But basically the actuaries, have to think about worst case scenarios, are saying that we will hit 2.5 by 2040. So if this can provide a bit more oomph to the whole problem, I think it would be worth it. So just give you a heads up that keep a lookout on YouTube when the Dave Wallace video is made live for it, because it is absolutely really tough.
Yes, thank you. And wherever you look, you see that very distinguished institutions are saying that the climate emergency is going to have a huge impact. I came across a page by the epilepsy medical profession, and they said it have a strong impact on almost everything we do for one reason or another, and I'm sure that applies to every other branch of medicine. So I hope we're going to build momentum and make this really take on the impression of a national emergency that's everyone's talking about and getting to grips with. Anthony.
Yes, one thing I did forget to mention, and Jackie, you need to be aware of this too, is that the Church of England are probably going to run a screening as well. So as part of the eco churches, I'm in discussion with Belinda Martin and Kit Connell, and Kit spoke at our event, our climate summit last year. So they are supportive of trying to obviously integrate that into the broader eco church scheme. So I attended a meeting on the 17th of February, and I'm optimistic, Jackie, we can try and get something going. Whether it occurs before April the 7th, I doubt, but we'll have to wait and see what the time is.
The latest thing is that it's going to keep going. They will be, we can have showings over the summer. And
absolutely.
Often, if you think of 5 inches of soil or whatever, that just still keeps going, still keeps being shown. Same with power station, power station, we want as many as soon as possible, but equally well, it can still build.
We've tried to design the film on that point. Sorry to interrupt, Jack. With at least 6 to 9 months of shelf life as well, so it'll keep going for pretty much the rest of the calendar year. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I only asked, do you know what the Salisbury Diocese thoughts are? Because obviously they've got a good, eco church side. I mean, I can contact them directly. I just wondered.
I think if you could, that would be helpful, because I didn't see their church mentioned. It was 17, I think, that Belinda mentioned there. So I'll go back and check the list that she's just sent me. But yes, if we can connect and see whether that's one of the eco churches. I'm sure it must be.
They keep talking about it being shown in the cathedral. Do you know which cathedrals?
Well, it might be Salisbury.
No, that's what I'm thinking.
The big one. Actually, I tell you what is happening this month. Actually, it's some interesting lectures on post-truth, which is a separate subject in Salisbury Cathedral. So they're taking that aspect pretty seriously. I know that's more of a social dimension and less a climate change and biodiversity. But hey,
thanks, Anthony. It's really good that the church is engaging with this, and I should think other denominations and indeed religions might want to. After all, kind of a sixth mass extinction is a bit of an offence against creation, really, isn't it?
It is.
And so I think there's a strong link. So good stuff going on, and we'd really just need to get our act together and organise and copy from each other what went well. I think. Any other comments on the national emergency briefing screenings? Okay, for now. And do I understand that I was asked by this venue in Trowbridge, have you got the rights to show this thing in public? I said yes, and don't you worry, but we will need documentation on that. And are we assured that that NEB will not be charging us rental for screening the film?
So can we just be really certain on that? If you write back to either to me and or to either of the Aldrich brothers, just to make absolutely, or probably Ben Long actually as the coordinator. Then we can get that, we can nip that in the bud. So just to make sure.
Nick Aldrich did say that on a Zoom yesterday or the day before. So
let's get it in writing though, because I tell you what, these things have rights attached, don't they, Julian? I just want to make absolutely certain we can show the movie in toto, entirety, without any trouble. So better be safe than sorry.
Great. Thanks. Well, are we ready to move on? A number of other shorter updates, we hope, and they we've covered that. LC whips is the next one on the list. Local cycling and walking infrastructure plans. 5 towns or areas have these under consultation. What I can report to you as a transport campaign coordinator and a member of the Cycling Network Alliance is that there's widespread dissatisfaction with the quality of the materials that are being consulted on, these drafts, local cycling walking infrastructure plans. I'm hoping to convene a meeting, a Zoom meeting, probably this, goodness, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because there's a sustainable transport forum inaugural meeting that Wiltshire Council is running by invitation only for a lot of groups around Wiltshire. Hi, Jimmy, and we really think we ought to talk amongst ourselves about our approach to these local cycling and walking infrastructure plans. Not everyone has got one coming along. I think that the relevant places are I can't remember the names of the 5 or 6 communities. Yes.
Shall I read them out? It's
Marlborough.
Malmesbury, Marlborough, Tidworth, and Legershall and Westbury.
Yes, those are the places. But anyone who's had experiences, good or bad, with local cycling walking infrastructure plan consultations would be useful to come along. Because for one thing, the governance of how these are being done by Wiltshire with their consultants Atkins doesn't conform to the government guidance on how to run local cycling walking infrastructure plan development projects and consultation. There really should be community stakeholders involved in project boards. So those are the consultations. If you want to link to them, I guess there's a link in the agenda in the email that you got that takes you straight to the Wiltshire Council's Transport Consultation Hub, and then you can look at the different LC whips and consider consulting, putting in feedback on those. So anything anyone else wants to ask or say about that, please?
Just a very quick one, if I may. Yeah, the link is in the agenda, but the other thing is, Graham mentioned earlier, I think it may have been before the formal meeting, that he's managed to sort of connect with nearby settlements, I think. Whereas I know you're having trouble with that in Bradford-on-Avon. So if anyone's having trouble with that, maybe we have someone that can tell us how they did it. That was the previous round of LC whip, so it may or may not still apply, but it's it's doable apparently.
Thank you, Julian. Shirley.
Sorry, I just does anybody know why Melksham's left out? Because I know originally there were going to be 3 LC whips for the biggest towns like Salisbury and Trowbridge, and then there were going to be kind of collective other different efforts for other places. And that was fine. But now lots of places smaller than us have got them, and we haven't. In Melksham, I mean.
You're muted, Andrew.
Sorry.
Anybody know?
I can quote from the LC whip page from Wiltshire Council, which isn't completely up to date. It says, as for Carl and Melksham LC whips, the consultation on the prioritised routes for the Carl and Melksham LC whips is now closed. This was the second and final stage of consultation, and all comments will now be considered before the final LC whips for both Carl and Melksham are agreed and published. You might want to put a written question to the cabinet meeting of 10th of March, if there's time. I think you've got until tomorrow noon or 5 p.m. to do that, or just write to Martin Smith or to Highways at Wiltshire Council if you want to get an update on that. I will ask those who come to the meeting we hope to organise if anyone knows more about that. Does that help you at all, Shirley?
Very helpful. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thanks very much indeed. Now, I've put in, I'm just putting one more thing into the, oh, thanks, Jackie's put in the chat, the the Oxfordshire Community Resilience Briefing link, and I'm putting in a link which I don't always remember to mention because we will need money to hire venues for a lot of these screenings, and there is a donate button on our homepage. So this specific reason for needing funds is quite an important one, and that's why I've given you a link to the donation. Takes you over to a donation web page where you can give us all your money, and it will be useful for that purpose. Anyone who wants to know how to save the chat, I keep forgetting even after about 6 years of using Zoom. Stay towards the end and we'll help you with that, or you can be sent a copy of the chat. Okay, cracking on. We've got some little things like, does anyone want to report back on Show the Love, where you get your MPs and you make hearts and send it to them?
Can I just, I don't know if you've got the latest list, Andrew, but we also put about the National Planning Policy Framework to follow after the LC whips, which is on the website agenda. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it was a last minute addition because because I forgot to put it in.
National Planning Policy Framework is being consulted on, and the deadline is the 10th of March, and we haven't got a working group at the moment framing a response. Julian.
That's true. But there is a little bit of information there, and individual responses on key topics are quite valuable, I think. I mean, a lot of people have done long responses, but just emphasising the particular things you're concerned about. The story behind the NPPF is that when the latest government came in, they did a sort of emergency revision in 2024, where they did things like allowed wind farms and just one or two major changes that they wanted to get out quickly. But now they've had a more detailed think, and this is a sort of more extensive revision of the plans. The Friends of the Earth link, which I put in the email, does list all the things that Friends of the Earth were concerned about at the time. And I think the structure of the document is probably still the same, so you can see those and see if there's any particular subject area you're interested in, see if they've addressed that, and if not, say so. But otherwise, I think, did we say that we'd try and do something? I know Bill was going to have a little look, but I don't know if we're likely to have time to do a WCA response.
Well, I'm going to look through key points that we raised last time and see where we're going to. So if people want to send me information, please do. I'm just going to go through it. There were some very key areas. It wasn't the whole document. There was about 6 or 7 main areas that we tackled last time. And I can't off the top of my head tell you what they were, but I know that they've changed them, and I know there are issues in them that we need to address. But whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know. And I think the more individual responses they get, the better it will be anyway. So I don't think we'll be able to put this up in advance, what we're going to be doing in advance of the 10th. So people are a bit on their own now to do the responses. Could try and get something out by the end of the week. But that would probably be just a finger on what are the areas we need to focus on rather than the detailed response.
Can't we just?
Sorry.
Sorry, go on.
We do have a WhatsApp group for anyone that wants to join it if they want to discuss it.
Yeah.
Did you put
I'll put a link to that in the chat as well? Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Shirley, carry on.
Oh, it's only can't we associate ourselves with the Centre for Sustainable Energy input?
That's glad you mentioned that, because I was looking on their website just this afternoon to see if they'd put in a response on this consultation on the NPPF, and I couldn't find that they have, although they did a very good one on a previous consultation on the NPPF. So I may not have the time to get in touch with them and ask them. They've got a phone number on their website. If anyone does find out anything, do please let us know. If nothing else, you could drop an email to contact@wiltshireclimatealliance.org.uk. I just want to highlight one point, which is that many environmental groups are concerned because the government has decided to, once in this consultation, in this draft, to abolish local authority power to have higher standards of home insulation and home energy, like zero passive house, that sort of thing, than the national specification under building regs. And environmental groups, climate groups, think it's actually intensely harmful, because if local authorities can't impose their own high standards of home insulation in the interest of net zero, then and the pretext is, well, the house building industry would have to meet all kinds of different standards. It would be non-standard. It would be, and so on and so on and so on. But that sounds like an intensely damaging thing. And the spirit behind some of the sneaky things in this NPPF seems to be growth at all costs. Let's get the housing quotas built within the next 5 years to meet the government's target. Let's drop regulations so that we can get that done. Build on grey belt land, which should be previously developed land that happens to be in the green belt, but there's a sneaky vagueness in the definition. Not very important green belt land seems to be another way of looking at it, and that's treacherously vague. So there's a lot to look at in this, but even if you only looked at one little thing, if you wanted to just look at transport and so on, it would be worth, as Bill said, feeding in. Okay, Bill.
Yeah, can I just say, I think that it's actually more important now that we look at it because of what's happened with the local plan. Because there is actually appears to me to be no control over developers in Wiltshire in terms of what I have no understanding about how it works now. They have had their revised local plan rejected effectively, and they've now got to start writing a new one up against the new criteria set by government. And therefore the only thing you can fall back on is NPPF if you're challenging a development rather than local plan stuff, which is so historic now. No, they should have had a new local plan 3 years ago, and they've missed that target many times already. And we're going to be another 2 years before we get a local plan. So the control, I don't know how the control is going to work on housing now. I really don't. So I think the only way to deal with it is to be as strong as possible on NPPF.
Agreed. Okay. Well, so would people please look at it and get in touch? We might need to send out another email in the next day or two. Now it's coming up to 8:30, and we have a number of smaller updates. I'm thinking of being selective and bumping some up to the top of the list so that people can feel freer to leave if you're exhausted. And the one that I think I'm going to ask Julian to brief us on is this Friends of the Earth community engagement event coming up in Swindon. And the reason I'm asking you to do that, Julian, and anyone else Swindon as well, of course, is because it kind of is a lead up to our 2026 Climate Summit, working with Swindon Borough Council in May. So, Julian.
Yes. So the idea is Friends of the Earth has supported us to do an event which tries to engage some of the non-usual suspects, some of the sort of community groups, listening to what they want. And in terms, well, in general terms, really, the title of the event is Climate Impacts and Social Fairness Workshop. So we're listening to what they want, seeing how that links with what we need to do for climate change, seeing what they think about climate change, and trying to understand that and give a common understanding of groups, and help people to know that someone else is sort of thinking about this, and try and consolidate their support for this sort of thing. One of the advantages is hopefully we will establish connections with a few more of the community groups in around the Swindon area. And we may also be able to run some sort of hustings event. This is TBC really, before the local elections in Swindon, where these community groups can engage with the parties and see what they have to say about these things. So that's the rough outline of what's happening. We have a list of various specific community groups, but also some categories of community groups which you're trying to research and work out who the best people to engage with are. And the timescales are very short because the event is on the 23rd of March, so it's only about 3 weeks away. The reason it's so short is we wanted to sort of get it in before the elections and have the possibility of a follow-on meeting before the elections. So the sort of groups we're talking about in particular, parents groups, WI type groups, youth groups, which we don't have a very good handle on. So if anyone does have any handle on that, which would cover the Swindon area, but even if they don't cover the Swindon area, we'd still, look to possibly engage them on behalf of those communities. That would be extremely helpful. So that's sort of where we are. Again, Jackie's been working very closely with us on that. So I don't know if I've missed anything out. Jackie, does that cover that item?
Yes, we've started looking at parish councils and working. Hopefully, Anthony, I don't know if you've got any connections through Community First.
Yeah, in fact, there was an offsite today that, funnily enough, that took place. I'll ask my other partner who's on the board of that to see whether there's. Can you drop me a line, Jackie and Julian, and just let me know what you're looking for? Because Community First also is coupled to Youth Action Wiltshire.
Right.
So there might be an angle through that. But if you drop me a line separate by separate cover, I'll try and find out for you.
Ian Knockolds, who sort of has a foot in both camps, is being really helpful. The other one that's interesting from the Friends of the Earth support is that they've produced local area maps of Swindon showing where the areas of low insulation properties are, where the heat stress area, how far people have to walk to get to green spaces, flood risks and so on. So those can be shared at the event. Which will be of interest to communities. So thank you.
Okay. Certainly in Trowbridge there's a youth forum which brings together a lot of youth groups, partners, and so on. Scouts, Guides, and Cubs are very interested in engagement with the art game project that I've been running on and off. You've also got Churches Together, which has a youth leaders forum. So you might find that in Trowbridge you might have the same institutions, Churches Together, bringing the denominations together.
We got them on the list. Thank you, Andrew. It's really a matter of the work of following it through now. And if anyone already has connections, that's obviously very helpful.
Are you connected with the trade unions at all?
Yes, I'm hopefully going to sort of connect with some of those tomorrow. But yeah, thanks.
That's great news. And this will be a live event in Swindon, will it?
Yeah. The idea is it is a workshop. The idea is to get 20, 30 people sitting around tables with facilitators to just have open discussions about what their communities would like and what threats they see, how they're meeting challenges and so on.
So would it be appropriate to have observers from Wiltshire Commons Alliance from outside of Swindon? One or two?
Well, I think we are there.
I mean, there's an expression of interest, and the link to it is in the agenda. So please do express your interest if you're interested. And I'm sure that it won't be a problem. But if we do get a disproportionate number of people of one type, we might have to sort of slightly adjust it. And it is intended for people who are sort of either community leaders or have a sort of experience, people that can engage with those communities, as opposed to sort of general public engagement. But please express your interest and let's talk about it if that is something that's of interest to you.
I think it's a bit of information and then a listening event.
Yeah.
Planned that they've done this event in quite a few areas of the country before, leading up to elections. So
and the other thing is, of course, one of the objectives is to engage people to watch the NEB film screening, and also to come to our summit in July. So in May. In May.
Thanks. We seem to be.
Summit is May 22nd, 23rd, right? Still.
Yeah.
We seem to be in kind of a healthy state.
I'm just going to excuse myself for a second, Andrew. If you could maybe do people in the park or something while I disappear.
The newsletter, did you say you want to carry on? You want to nip out and
Could
come
I
back in?
just excuse myself for a couple of minutes, and
Please
maybe you
do.
could do people in the park or something while I'm away, and I'll be
Yes,
back
but
in a
while
sec.
you're away, I'm going to thank you for doing this incredible agenda email, which was almost like a Vulture Climate Alliance newsletter. Julian puts a lot into that, sometimes staying up very late to do it. There's an exceptional number of links. So one of the nicest things you could all do is read that meeting email again tomorrow and follow some of the links now that you know what it's all about. And also the chat has been exceptionally rich. So does anyone want to tell us something about Salisbury people in the square on the 6th of April or people in the park on the 16th of May? Anyone bring us up to date on any of that? People in the square, is that in the main market square in the middle of Salisbury? Jimmy?
Sorry, yes, I'm sorry, I'm just spilling coffee while I'm trying to talk to you. People in the park, yeah, there's going to be, I think there's more stalls this year than ever before. I'm not on the committee, we just organise our own transport activities there. We've got representatives from the local cogs, obviously, and then Walk Wheel Cycle, Cycling UK. We're going to have cycle marking, Dr. Bike maintenance, loads of cakes to go with that. So if anybody likes eating cake, please come along. It's generally a very, very active day, which really does get the community involved, tremendously involved. And obviously, Christian runs the whole thing off his e-power units, which is great fun, and has the kids cycling and trying to keep the music going while bands are playing and people are talking, and the amplification system's all done on cycling for energy, and it's just a giggle. It's great fun. So if anybody wants to come along, please come along on that day. People in the square, I'm not sure what that is.
I think it's organised by the city council.
Is it?
Yeah.
We haven't been involved, so I'm not sure what that is.
Anyone
Do you have
know?
anything else, Andrew?
Sorry, I can fill that in. Everybody's about to get an email,
Right.
but it's the big screen that's going up in Salisbury, which Christian has been helping.
Right.
And he's negotiated a day for, if you excuse me reading it, it's in the build up to people in the park.
Right.
We transition city with other community groups are holding people in the square on the 6th of April. So there'll be a big screen and then also lots of other events going on. Live performances, music, talks about nature, sustainable living, latest updates from scientists and experts on climate change, and inviting young people to come along and tell us what their thoughts are for the future. Spaces for stalls for community groups and locally made sustainable products. So there will be an email going out shortly for people to express interest and get involved.
Fantastic.
Wow.
And that's Easter Monday, isn't it? So no excuse.
Andrew, if I may mention one other thing, I'm part of Share Salisbury, or Library of Things.
Yeah.
And we are having to relocate, possibly April, May, and as yet we have nowhere to go. We had a press release in the journal last week with various radio interviews going out, and that's TV interviews going out as well. But it's going to be heartbreaking if everything has to go into story. So we're reaching out to as many people as possible. And one of the routes we're trying to go down again is any council organisation, any church organisation, any social or other community organisations. Obviously, we don't have the money to pay commercial rates, but the current subletting we had worked great, but unfortunately, the sort of lease is up, so we're looking to relocate. So if anybody has any church organisation that they think could help us, or other social enterprises, that would be great.
Have you started talking to the churches? Have you been in conversation?
Only through, only directly through local churches we know, rather than an activity exercise broadcasting it. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. So the current church organisation that Repair Cafe runs out of, we're going to go and talk to them. There's St Michael's up in Bemerton Heath, so it's very selective. And I'm sure there's better networks we could make more use of.
Well, ping me an email about it, Jimmy, because I'm about to start talking to them about the NEB. So
okay, thank you, Jackie. That'd be great.
Contacts that came out
I will.
at Climate Summit. So
All
yes,
right.
it's always nice if I've got in your own words.
Yeah, no. Thank you.
Thanks for telling us that, Jimmy. Best of luck with that. I'm sure you're going to be going around the estate agents, the nightclubs, the Chamber of Commerce in desperation. And I hope you get somewhere. It kind of pivots around to a little update on the lottery bids, which is a non-update because although I hoped that we would hear from them by February the 11th, I think that was the earliest date they mentioned in one of their confusing emails. And it's more likely to be March the 11th, which is actually not very long, where we hear from the EcoHubs lottery bid, whether that's gone through this pre-qualifying round for its bid for 1.5 million. That would probably enable people to get together in Salisbury and rent some premises for a little while. The other one being the £500,000 bid for the Wessex Greenways Association project, Wessex Interurban Greenways. And the only other thing I want to say about that, since we're running late, is that the group wants to make that a real project, whether we get lottery money or not. And we're making good progress. We're going to be compiling a long list of routes which we might turn into greenways, working with Wiltshire Council, working with Walkwheel Cycle Trust, which used to be Sustrans, working with John Grimshaw of Greenways and Cycle Routes. It turns out that the Western Gateway Subnational Transport body has its own strategic map of interurban routes, a lot of which crisscross Wiltshire. So we've got plenty of maps, no money, but definitely the energy and the positive will. And we now know of ways to engage with communities, get volunteers, get the buggers built, basically. And he says in an imitation Wiltshire accent. So that's your update on the lottery bids. We'll be letting you know how we get on. Some other updates. Julian, you had a hand up a moment ago.
Yeah, I was only going to mention that the form that Jackie mentioned there is a link to it in the agenda email, and I've also put it in the chat here, just in case so you don't have to wait for the email to come out. I don't know how quickly that'll come out, but it'll be out quite soon, probably the other email.
Thanks very much. Save the chat, guys. I want to almost declare the meeting closed. Next meeting will be the 4th of April, and it should be our AGM as a small part of the meeting. We've got one or two other optional updates. People could just hang on. But first, Bill, or people can leave in a moment, and we'll switch the recording off. Bill, go on, if you're unmuted.
No, it's okay. I'll speak later on in a smaller group.
Right. Okay. Well, either breathe a sigh of relief and I'll declare the meeting over. We'll switch the recording off in a minute or two, or feel free to stay on. If you wanted to make any comments or post feedback into the chat. And I think when you leave the meeting, you get an automatic feedback form, do you?
Yes, you should do. In fact, so we need to have a look at those. There's also, I was only going to say, we always welcome, updates from other member groups or anything that anyone else wants to say, and we always leave it till last, and it gets run out of time. But now is a good time if there are, I'd certainly be very interested to hear what is going on if anyone wanted to report back on anything they are
in your
organising
area.
or doing.
Whether you've met an MP or a councillor or not, and I'll be staying on certainly. I'd love to hear from people. Catherine, for instance.
Oh, just a quick one. I went to the area board Monday night, and we got awarded £2,500 towards a cycle hanger for Devizes. It's only taken 2 years.
It's really good, isn't it? Perseverance pays.
And is it true, the rumour that Wiltshire Council has a supply of cycle parking stands, if you know who to ask, that people can take away, get your town council or a local business to install them?
Yes, it's true. And we've installed 4 or 5 in Salisbury. So you contact the council, you get someone to go and pick up the stands, you bring them back, and you work as volunteers to install them in the appropriate place where you've agreed with the local community group or business or wherever it is you want to do it. And it is a fantastic initiative.
If you had a particular contact, perhaps you could put it into one of the WhatsApp chats, like with WCA Transport.
I think it varies depending on who the person is at the time over the years. I'm not sure who it is right now.
Okay, then. And anyone, especially anyone who's new, if you wanted to give us a 1 minute presentation or update, or 1, 10, 100 minutes in next month's meeting, you can always email us at contact@Wiltshire Climate Alliance, and we can talk you through the process, and which is just you let us know, and then we give you a slot. But otherwise, I've got Julian.
Yeah, I was really going to ask a couple of questions. I was interested, Shirley, about how you organised the Show the Love event in Melksham, unless you already covered all that while I wasn't there, and wonder if anyone else had organised any of those, and also if the people that did it. I looked up; it was a local sort of organisation that does projections. Might be up for doing more of that, and how that went, and also. And you said about you're a tree warden in Royal Wood and Bastion. I was just interested to know any, things on tree planting that have happened that might be the sort of things that other people might be doing.
If I can just add, in Melksham, we've, as you know, had a very difficult relationship with the Melksham Town Council, and there's been a change of personnel there. And as a result, they were more than delighted to do the projection onto the town hall. And so that's been a major plus. And we're about to launch into closer collaboration, subject to what the members of Melksham Environment Group say tomorrow night. So we've got a new kind of orientation and phase coming up. So that was, I'm thinking that they might help us to screen the NEB as well. So that's a possible first collaboration. So things are looking up, I think.
Sorry, that might not have been the right visual effect. Jill or Jimmy?
Sorry, that I've finished. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. What did you ask me something else, Julian? Because I didn't quite catch it.
The main thing, really, I just wondered if the people that did it, the display organisation, were people that do that across the county, or are they just a local group?
No, just local. But I will check. I mean, we're famous in Melksham for our Christmas lights, if you like their colour ideas. And they are so beloved of the community that nobody would ever comment adversely about the Christmas lights because they're such a lovely bunch of people. I will check whether the display of the Green Hearts was by them or by inside the council employees, So I will check and let you know, Julian.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I mean, they look like a good group, and I saw the picture on their own website of the fact that they displayed these Green Hearts, and so, if anyone else wants that, it might be worth getting in touch with them.
Great, because I must admit I didn't make a green heart out of fresh willow wands and send it to my MP. Yeah. Sorry. Jill, Jimmy.
Yeah, just a couple of things that are transport related. We've been working hard across Salisbury and indeed Wiltshire to try and advertise the big walk and wheel, which is taking place in schools to get people to walk and wheel to the local schools. And that's the 16th to the 27th of March, 10 days. And the kids all take part through education, logging the journeys, they win prizes, school win prizes, and everybody gets healthier and hopefully reduces car journeys. And the second item is if anyone's looking for any employment on a small scale initiative, Wiltshire Council are looking for more bikeability instructors. If anybody wants to know anything about that, please contact me or contact the road safety team directly, and say me because I'm a bikeability instructor. But it's very worthwhile if you enjoy working with kids and enjoy teaching and educating children. It's a fantastic thing to do. So I'll leave that there.
And it'd be great to have more details about that so that we can actually put them on the website and mention them as events in the next newsletter if it's not too late, because because other people may be inspired to do similar, really. You know, even if they're not in Salisbury.
Because,
it sounds really good, doesn't it?
albeit it's the 16th to the 27th, and hopefully we can get that out in your newsletter. It's an annual event, so we can keep it rolling. We can get. It's quite embarrassing. I think we generally only get about 6 schools across the whole of Wiltshire taking part. I'm not quite sure the reasons for that. I'd like to see more engagement through Wiltshire Council itself, marketing it, particularly as the bikeability instructors do get involved.
Is that 16th, 27th of March or April?
March.
Oh, okay. So very soon then, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know Becky Cox in Swindon, I expect.
Yes. Well, I know of her, yeah. Very much. An absolute hero and a legend.
Exactly. She's the sort of person that would organise that in Swindon. But
yeah, she will be.
She's struggling for funding at the moment to keep her current project going, which is inclusive cycling. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that at the moment.
Oh, but she's one of the success stories when it comes to getting funding. So hopefully she will come through eventually.
Becky Cox, a really brilliant cycling organiser, community organiser, Swindon-based, funded by British Cycling. And when I contacted her to ask for help with a green travel plan for a new factory in Trowbridge, she said, "Oh, my funding is running out." So we're in danger of losing a brilliant asset that Wiltshire and Swindon have promoting cycling. And I don't know, I didn't know that she was going to try and get some other funding. Let's hope she does manage to get something that keeps her able to do what she does. And we should copy what she does in Wiltshire Council area. Maybe get some funding from British Cycling or Cycling UK or somewhere else. And it could cover active travel, it could cover walking, couldn't it? That sounds like a brilliant event, Jimmy. Thanks for telling us about it. Okay, shall we call it quits for tonight? I think we've covered absolutely everything else, plus 2 extra things that we wanted to cover. There's lots of things in the chat, including the link to the donate button, hint, hint. And so let's just switch off the recording and conclude the meeting. Maybe people will stay behind informally for a debrief, or you'll just go to bed early so that you can get up early and read the meeting invitation email again.